Let's take a look at how Python uses if and elif and else as ways of branching and conditionality. So for example, suppose we have something like this. A is equal to 5. And then we have a statement, if A is greater than 10, print A. So when we run this, nothing happens because A is not greater than 10. So, but if we change it so that A is equal to 12 or 112 when we run it, now we can see that in fact it does print it. So we have the if statement, and then we have the condition that must evaluate either to true or false. So we have A is greater than 10, and that will evaluate to either true or to false, depending on the value of A. That is then followed by a colon. The colon signals to Python that what follows are some commands that will belong inside sort of the group of commands associated with this if statement. So here we have, after the colon, we have an indent. And what that indicates to Python is that this command is to be executed as only if this statement proves to be true. We could have additional statements here. In fact, we could have as many as we want. So now when we run this, not only does it print 112, the value of A, it also prints hello. Okay, well, now we could add another statement here, or rather another branch by having an else statement. And so what we'll put here is we'll say print A is too small. Okay, or we could say A is less than 10. Okay, actually we should say A is less than or equal to 10. Okay, so now let's change A again to a value of 1. We run this, and now we can see what happens is Python ran through this if-else structure. It went here and it found that this was not true, so it skipped down to else. And when you use an else with an if the if statement evaluates to false, then it's automatically going to do whatever is under the else statement. So this is it's a binary system here where there's only two possible outcomes. Either we print A and print hello, or alternatively we print A is less than or equal to 10, and that's what happened here. So those are the two possible outcomes. And again, so when A is greater than 10, it prints what follows this if statement, and it ignores what follows the else statement. You do not have to have an else statement, as we saw before, so that's entirely up to you, depending on the particular circumstance. So we also can have a second or a third really type of statement called an elif statement, where we say if A is greater than 5, let's say, we'll have it print A is, sorry about my typing here, A is greater than 5. Okay, so now we have a third thing here. So let's see what happens. So when A is 112, it still evaluates this first if statement, finds it to be true, so it then executes these commands, and then it ignores whatever it follows. Even though A is in fact greater than 5 right now, it ignores this because when we use if and elif and else, these are mutually exclusive. It will only carry out one of these sets of commands. So now if we say A is, let's say, equal to 7, and we run it, now we get the elif. So what happened was that Python went to the if, saw that A is not greater than 10, so it went to the next piece of this structure, which is the elif statement, and it found that this evaluates to true, so it went to A is greater than 5. And finally, if we have, let's say, A is equal to 2, now it went all the way down to print A is less than or equal to 10. Now again, we could have this run without the else statement, and now when we run this, Python does nothing because it went to the if statement, this was not true. It went to the elif statement, this was not true. So then it did nothing. And so what happens then is the first command that it finds after all these indented if or elif or else commands is what it will execute. So here what happens is when we run this, we can see it prints we are done. So this evaluated to false, so it skipped this. This evaluated to false, so it skipped this. So it then just went on to the next statement that was not part of the if, elif, else structure. So if we had, for example, again, that a is equal to 20, it prints the a and the hello, and then it skips the elif, and then it prints we are done. Okay, so that's just by way of a short introduction to the if, elif, and else structure that Python uses to make decisions. A couple things to note here. The if, the elif, and the else always have to end with a colon. Otherwise, you'll get an error. And each of these then has a set of indented commands under them that get executed depending on the particular circumstances. So here again we have, depending on the value of a, this will determine what gets printed. The we are done statement will always get printed because it is outside the if, elif, else structure. So this incorporates two things, the use of the colon and then the use of the indented commands that Python executes as part of a structure where we have commands that would go with the if, commands that go with the elif, and commands that go with the else.